We are back on Get Up, and so are the Dallas Mavericks on the court since the Luka trade, taking on the Warriors. They bring in Jimmy Butler, and the fans in Dallas, they'll never sell you short of opinion. Sometimes you got to support the guys that are still there. One of them, Kyrie Irving. He had a night. Klay Thompson found him for 12. Then Kyrie again. Mavericks up 83-78 after 3 quarters. Let's pick it up fourth quarter now. Warriors down 99-92. Steph, he won't miss from there. Warriors down 4. The comeback is coming. Draymond Green, Curry for another 3. Warriors regain the lead by 1. Under 2 minutes to play, fourth quarter. Look at a pump by Kyrie for 3. Mavericks up 107-104. Then Moses Moody misses the layup. Jimmy Butler is there. Butler, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Warriors down 1. After a Warriors free throw, tied at 107. Najee Marshall gets the floater. Mavs up 2. Then Butler drives. Irving makes the layup, but an offensive foul is called. You see Irving stepped in. Just perfect execution defensively. Mavs hold on to win 111-107. Kyrie, 42 points in this one as we bring back David and Wendy. And David, I want to start with you. Describe Kyrie's performance last night. 42 points at a win for the Mavs.
Kyrie and Klay both went out there last night and reminded everybody, hey, we're champions too. Like, you got to think about the state of the Mavs over the last 2 weeks. The fans have basically been in revolt for the last week and a half. And everybody's been talking about Kyrie and Klay and that Mavs team being done because Luka's left and now AD is hurt. And they came out there and gave the fans something that they needed to see, which is that, hey, we still have superstars and champions on this team. Kyrie on a heater, 3 threes in about 30 seconds. Klay holding it down in the first half. And then was most importantly, after the game, Kyrie standing behind, signing a ton of autographs for everybody. This was a thing that picks up a whole organization, and those two guys really have to be commended for doing that.
Especially with the fan base that is so down right now because the Luka trade. Wendy, let's switch over now to the Warriors. They dropped to 500, 27-27 going into the All-Star break. So let's take this coming out of the All-Star break. Do you think they can do enough to overcome some of these flaws and contend in a really, really good Western Conference?
No, I do not. I do think Jimmy Butler is a great addition. I do think he's played and made a difference. I just think the West is too competitive at the top. I think they're small. One of the reasons why the Mavericks were able to win this game last night, they were able to get away with starting the tallest player that they started with 6'7". And, you know, you look at the top of the West right now, you look at how well Denver is playing. Nobody's talking about Denver. They've won 8 in a row. Jamal Murray is red hot. He's got 4 30-point games the last 2 weeks, had 55 last night. Jokic is playing great. The Thunder are 44-9. The Rockets have been really good. The Lakers have improved. I just don't think the Warriors can hop over all those teams. Right. I think if they make the playoffs, it's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, you mentioned Denver. We'll get into them in the next hour. They could be sneakily one of the best teams in the NBA that could catch a team like the Thunder, who we've been talking about all year. More from you guys coming up in just a bit. I want to switch gears now to college hoops, and for that we have some eye candy from Wake Forest's Hunter Salas. Look at him just cock this thing back over Florida State's Jerry Dang. Dang it. Seminoles win the ball game 72-70. You know, speaking of eye candy, couldn't have thought of 2 better people to bring on for eye candy. Reese Davis, College Game Day, Jay Billis with us. We got just over a month until Selection Sunday in men's college basketball. I want to start with some superlatives, Jay Billis, because this has been a really good basketball season to this point, notably with the players and in the SEC. So let's start with your 2 best players in men's college basketball right now.
It's a 2-horse race for National Player of the Year, and it's Cooper Flagg of Duke and Johni Broome of Auburn. And Johni Broome has been spectacular all season long. He transferred into Auburn from Morehead State a couple years ago, and he's just been a dominant interior presence, an outstanding rebounder, interior scorer, and he's also a great passer. And Cooper Flagg, the freshman from Maine, has been everything he was advertised to be as the #1 player coming out of high school. And more, and frankly, and more. He's leading Duke in scoring, rebounding, assists, and block shots. He's been fantastic in ACC play. He's averaging over 23 points a game. And I think those two, along with Braden Smith of Purdue, he would be third, but I think a distant third from those two.
What about which team has surprised you the most?
I've been most surprised, Matt, by Michigan State. When I saw the Spartans early in the season, I wasn't sure they were going to be even middle of the Big Ten. It's not a very good shooting team. I think they are good shooters, but they haven't shot the ball well. But they've adjusted to it. They're getting to the free throw line more than ever under Tom Izzo. They're getting into the paint, they're driving it, and as a result, getting to the free throw line. And they're near the top of the Big Ten. But they haven't played the meat of their schedule yet. They've lost 3 of 4. And they're going to have to pick it up down the stretch, and they're going to have to shoot it better, which they're capable of.
And you know, with Tom Izzo, they're always one of those teams that could go on a deep run of the tournament should they get there playing good basketball. And finally, which two teams do you believe are the best in the sport right now?
I think it's Duke and Auburn, and we'll start with Duke. They're young. Their best players are their youngest players, but they are big. They're super athletic, and they're excellent defensively. One of the things that's impressed me most, especially with a young team, is how well their help side is positioned on defense and how well they talk. And when you've got Cooper Flagg that's leading the way, they're legit. Auburn has been the most consistent at the highest level all season long. They've played arguably the toughest schedule in college basketball. It seems like every game they've played is a quad one game, and they've performed really well against it. Their guards are excellent. They shoot it, and they knock their free throws down, which is going to be really important in late game situations, especially as we get into the NCAA tournament.
It's going to be really important this weekend. Speaking of the number 1 ranked Tigers, we've got Iron Bowl, the basketball edition, 1 versus 2. Reese, you're going to take the game day show there. Set the match scene for this enormous matchup as we embark down the final 8 weeks of the regular season.
You know, I think the rivalry's been elevated, Matt, because it's always been important within the state, and it's always been full of characters with great personalities, whether it was Charles Barkley or Wimp Sanderson, Latrell Sprewell, Robert Horry. But really the significance of the rivalry sort of stopped at the state borders. And there was a time when, to make sure that they had sellout crowds both places, the winning football team ended up getting the trophy presented to them at halftime. That doesn't even matter anymore. The football aspect of it, they've never had 1 versus 2. And what we have here is, 2 of the best teams in the country. And I agree with Jay that Duke and Auburn have been the best so far. But I also think that Alabama has as much room for growth as anyone else because they've had problems with turnovers. Hasn't really hurt them in the record. If they clean that up, clean up a little free throw shooting in some late game situations, I think Alabama is on that level with those two. And it ought to be a spectacular scene in Tuscaloosa. I'm told it's the hardest ticket in the history of Alabama basketball.
Really?
People paying, $500, $600, $700 just to try to get in the building Saturday.
Yeah, and look, you know better than anyone that's a football school, but right now Alabama basketball is making its waves nationally. And Jay, you look at this game, Auburn, number 1 ranked team in the country. How do they march out of there with a win?
They're going to have to keep Alabama out of the paint. Alabama, people say they're a 3-point shooting team. They make a ton of threes, which is true. They make 10 a game. They just made 17 out of 29 against Texas in a win. But they do it because they're a slot driving team. They get out in transition, but they put their head down and they get into the paint. They collapse defenses, they force help, and then they kick it out and play out of that. That's where their threes come from. If you cannot keep Alabama out of the paint, you cannot beat the Crimson Tide. Nate Oates does a spectacular job with analytics. They want to get layups, free throws, and open threes, and they get a lot of each of those because they put their head down. They drive and they attack the paint. If you can't keep them out of the paint, you can't beat them.
So, look, and we talked about this the other day in Kentucky, Jay, about how good the SEC has been this year. And this game encompasses that with 1 versus 2. In fact, 3 of the 4 current number 1 seeds in Joe Lunardi's bracketology come out of the SEC. The 4th, Duke, out of the ACC. Reese, I'm going to start with you on this one. Just put this year in perspective with what we've seen out of this conference.
I don't think we've seen anything like it in terms of depth, in terms of quality depth and national championship contenders. Now, those 3 teams that are on the 1 line right now are the 3 that I think that could win the national championship. The others are all good teams. They're capable of upsetting highly ranked teams. They're capable of making deep runs. But all of them, to me, other than Auburn, Alabama, and Florida, have some offensive liabilities and can go in offensive wells. I think it hurt them over the course of a long tournament. But I think the depth and competitive character of the entire conference is really as good, if not better, than anything we've ever seen.
Jay, you?
It's the best basketball conference top to bottom relative to the field that we have ever seen. They put up numbers that compare favorably to the mid-80s in the ACC, but people forget the ACC had 8 teams back then. It's a lot easier to have 8 good teams than it is to have 16. And it has been remarkable. Now, but that doesn't mean that Houston or Duke can't win the national championship. Nobody's saying that, because the SEC is the best conference, that automatically they're going to have the entire Elite Eight or the entire Final Four. That's not what anybody's saying. But no other league can match what the SEC has done this year. And historically, it matches what any other league has done ever. I think it's the most powerful league, top to bottom, that we've ever seen relative to the field.
I cannot wait. About 8 regular season games left.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn đã quay trở lại kênh YouTube của mình. Mình hiện làm người làm video sáng tạo nội dung trên nền tảng YouTube nha các bạn. Mình sẽ sáng tạo những video hướng dẫn cắt dán cho các bạn này. Đây là những sản phẩm của mình đã cắt dán rất nhiều những sản phẩm của mình đây này. Mình sẽ giới thiệu cho các bạn cách mình tạo ra những video viral của mình nha. Đấy. Để tạo được những video đẹp hay chất lượng cho các bạn xem thì mình sẽ cần những dụng cụ như sau. Mình sẽ giới thiệu cho các bạn biết nha. Đây là giấy thủ công màu các bạn ạ. Rất nhiều màu sắc này. Đấy. Nó có giấy màu vàng này, giấy màu xanh này, đây là màu xanh da trời nha các bạn này. Còn đây là giấy màu đỏ. Đấy. Còn đây giấy màu cam này các bạn này, màu cam, giấy màu vàng này. Đấy, giấy màu vàng. Và để tạo ra được những sản phẩm tuyệt vời như thế này. Đấy, những sản phẩm mình đang cầm trên tay là sản phẩm đẹp của mình. Đấy. Rất nhiều sản phẩm này. Đấy. Thì mình sẽ cần những dụng cụ tiếp theo sẽ là kéo để cắt này, kéo cắt, bút dạ là để vẽ và định hình, tô thêm những sắc màu đẹp cho sản phẩm. Còn đây là hồ dán để mình có thể dán được những chi tiết vào cho sản phẩm này. Đấy, cắt dán mà đây như thế này đây, mình sẽ cắt dán và dán vào đây. Đấy, đằng sau mình sẽ dán đằng sau này các bạn này. Đây, ví dụ như thế này. Đấy, mình sẽ cắt dán này, cắt rồi dán thêm này, điểm nhấn cho sản phẩm đấy. Và còn những dụng cụ không thể thiếu như là đây, đằng sau mình đây là chiếc chân kẹp điện thoại này. Đây là chiếc điện thoại để mình quay lại quá trình mình tạo ra video này. Đây là chữ đèn hỗ trợ ánh sáng. Và kênh của mình thì cũng đã được nhận nút bạc từ YouTube rồi các bạn này. Đây nút bạc của mình này. Đấy. Khi mình cắt dán xong một sản phẩm, mình sẽ đưa lên máy tính của mình. Hiện tại chỗ này của mình thì chưa có máy tính. Mình sẽ nói cái đấy vấn đề sau đi. Mình sẽ đưa lên máy tính và mình sẽ hay dùng phần mềm Camtasia để chỉnh sửa và edit video. Mình sẽ cắt sửa những đoạn video thừa ở trên Camtasia. Mình sẽ xuất ra và đăng lên kênh của mình thôi để cho các bạn xem và chiêm ngưỡng ấy. Các bạn hãy ủng hộ mình bằng những lượt đăng ký, lượt like, subscribe nha, để mình có thể ra nhiều video cho các bạn xem. Tại nơi làm việc của mình đây rất nhiều những sản phẩm. Đây, quả chuối này, cây nấm này, đây là lọ mực này, nhiều lắm các bạn này, thước ké này. Đấy. nấm cơm này. Đấy. Và bây giờ các bạn hãy cùng đi theo dõi mình tạo ra những sản phẩm viral cho các bạn xem nha.
Bây giờ mình sẽ đi được cái tán ra giờ sẽ y nha. Mình sẽ in các bạn. Mình sẽ cắt các bạn. Chỉ các bạn. Mình sẽ cắt ra luôn. Thì mình sẽ dán ra đây. Viết tên các bạn.